You ever had that moment, that 1 second, where everything slows down and you just know something's wrong? Like you're not paranoid, but your gut's screaming at you to pay attention? That was me, at a dinner table, with my wife, her parents, and a glass of drink that didn't taste quite right. My name is Ethan Brooks, I'm 34 years old, and what happened that night changed how I looked at family, loyalty, and revenge, forever. Let me back up a bit. I met Olivia 5 years ago. She was smart, kind, stubborn in the best way, and beautiful in this grounded, effortless kind of way that made you feel like the rest of the world was trying too hard. We met at a fundraiser gala. I was there as a logistics consultant for the event. She was handling PR for a nonprofit. She made some dry comment about the rubber chicken dinner. I laughed, and we ended up talking the entire night. A year later, we were engaged. But there was one thing about Olivia that always came with baggage. Her mother, Margaret, or as I used to joke before I knew better, the Queen. She ran her house like a Fortune 500 company. Everything had a system, a schedule, a judgmental glance if you stepped out of line. Olivia had grown up with it, learned to survive it. But me? I was just a threat she hadn't authorized. From the moment I met Margaret, I could feel it, that cold calculation behind the polite smiles. She'd tilt her head when I spoke, the way someone does when they're pretending to listen but actually cataloging your flaws. She never said anything outright. That was the thing about Margaret. She was all implication, loaded silences, subtle digs masked as etiquette, like the time she accidentally forgot my name during a toast, or the dinner where she served shellfish after Olivia told her I was allergic. Little things, petty things, things you can't prove, but that wear you down over time. Olivia defended her at first, said it was generational, said her mom just had a strong personality. But by the 3rd year of marriage, even she couldn't pretend anymore. Still, we kept the peace. Family dinners every few weeks, holiday appearances, smiles for the photos. Until that night. The night everything cracked. The night I saw the truth behind Margaret's smile, and did something I never thought I was capable of. It was a Sunday evening, early fall, the kind of crisp, breezy evening where everything feels calm, even when you know it's not. We were at Margaret's house, this massive colonial-style place on the edge of town. Everything inside was polished, antique, and aggressively beige. The kind of house that looked like it had been curated, not lived in. It was supposed to be a celebration dinner. That's what she called it. Olivia said you landed a new client. Big contract, right? Margaret said over the phone, her voice too sweet. We should celebrate. Just family. It felt off from the start. Not the invite itself. Margaret had faked supportive mother-in-law before, but her tone, the way she emphasized just family, the way she insisted I sit at the head of the table when we arrived, that was new. We walked in around 6:30. Her husband, Thomas, was already pouring drink. Olivia looked tense but tried to play it cool. And Margaret? Margaret was glowing, fake glowing, the way politicians do before they stab you with a compliment so sharp you bleed out through your smile. She kissed Olivia on the cheek, air-kissed near me, and ushered us to the dining room like she was hosting royalty. The table was set for 4. China plates, crystal glasses, linen napkins folded so tight they looked like origami. The drink was already poured. That's what stopped me. 4 glasses, filled, waiting. Margaret never did that. She was a control freak, but one who served drinks with the meal, never before. She liked the performance of it. So, why were they already poured? I scanned the table. 3 glasses of a pale white Chardonnay. 1, mine, a slightly deeper gold, almost imperceptible. But I saw it, and I knew. I didn't say anything. Not right away. I just sat down slowly, eyes on that glass like it might blink. Thomas raised his own and smiled. To Ethan. Big-time consultant now. We all lifted our glasses, except I didn't drink. I smiled, said thank you. Then, when the others were distracted, Olivia turning to comment on the centerpiece, Margaret adjusting a serving tray, I made the switch. Subtle. Clean. My glass for Thomas's. He never noticed. He took a full sip moments later, and Margaret saw it happen. That's when it got interesting. Her smile twitched, just for a second. A flicker, like she wasn't sure whether to scream or laugh. But she said nothing, just watched. Watched him drink it. What happened next was even stranger. Dinner continued. Roast chicken, green beans, that overly complicated potato dish Margaret always made to show off her mandolin slicing skills. She asked about my work. Too many questions, specific ones. Probing. How's the contract clause with international enforcement? That can be tricky. How's your health these days? You've looked tired lately. I answered politely. But my mind wasn't on her questions. It was on Thomas. 20 minutes in, he started rubbing his eyes. Another 10, and he looked pale. I think I'm just tired, he muttered. Margaret said nothing. She didn't touch her drink the whole meal. That told me everything. She hadn't expected him to drink it. She hadn't planned for that outcome, but now she had to watch it play out. And me? I just watched her. Every flinch, every glance, every tiny betrayal of that perfectly curated mask. By the time dessert came out, lemon tart, because Margaret always said chocolate was too pedestrian, Thomas was sweating. He excused himself quietly, went upstairs. I didn't follow, neither did she, but Olivia noticed. Is Dad okay? She asked. Margaret forced a smile. Probably just indigestion. You know how heavy chicken can be. I could barely hide my grin, because I knew what was in that drink. Nothing fatal, but enough to ruin a night. A lot of magnesium, some powdered valerian, crushed antihistamines, mixed with a slow-acting digestive relaxant. If I had to guess, Margaret thought I'd pass out mid-dinner or end up in the bathroom for hours. Either way, I wouldn't be sitting at that table. But now Thomas wasn't, and that made her squirm. The silence after Thomas left was dense, not awkward, not yet, but heavy, like a glass about to tip. Olivia tried to steer the conversation back to something light, something normal. She asked about the upcoming fundraiser her mom was helping organize, and Margaret gave all the usual rehearsed responses. But I noticed how her fingers tightened on her napkin, how her eyes flicked toward the staircase every 30 seconds. She was unraveling, quietly, and I was enjoying every second of it. I didn't speak much during dessert, just nodded, smiled, sipped my new glass of drink. Thomas's, which hadn't been touched before I picked it up. And Margaret? She barely ate her lemon tart. After a few more tense minutes, she suddenly stood up and said, "Excuse me," and disappeared upstairs. Olivia gave me a look, slightly worried, slightly confused. I just shrugged. Inside, though, my pulse was racing, because this wasn't just petty anymore. This was confirmation. I had suspected for a while that Margaret wanted me out of Olivia's life. But this was an actual attempt to remove me, a physical act, something with consequences, and I couldn't figure out what was worse, that she thought I wouldn't notice, or that she thought she could get away with it. She came back down 10 minutes later, composed, or trying to be. Her lipstick was slightly smudged, and there was a faint flush in her cheeks. "He's resting," she said softly. "We shouldn't disturb him." She sat down and picked up her glass. That same glass she had prepared for me. She stared at it for a second, and for just a moment I thought she might drink it herself out of some warped sense of penance or panic. But she didn't. She just moved it slightly farther from herself, like it disgusted her now. Later that night, after we got home, Olivia curled up next to me on the couch. She looked tired, a little out of sorts. That was weird, right? She asked. Which part? I said lightly, pretending not to know what she meant. She hesitated. All of it. The way Mom was acting, Dad, the questions, the way she watched you. I nodded, and then I told her. All of it. About the different drink color, the switch, Thomas drinking it, her mom's reaction, the way she kept looking at him, not with concern but calculation. Olivia didn't speak for a long time. When she finally did, she said, "Do you think she actually tried to—" "Not to kill me," I said. "Just take me out of the equation." Olivia sat up straighter. Her face went hard. "We need to say something, to her, to him." But I shook my head. Not yet. You say something now, she'll just deny it. Twist it. She's too good at that. Then what? Olivia asked. I looked at her and said, "We wait. Let it build. Let her wonder what I know. Let her squirm." Because sometimes the best revenge isn't confrontation. It's silence. It's the slow unraveling of someone who thinks they're untouchable, until you show them, calmly and quietly, that they're not. For the next 2 weeks, we didn't hear a word from Margaret, which, in itself, was strange. She usually called Olivia at least twice a week, sometimes more, under the guise of checking in. Really, it was surveillance, keeping tabs, making sure her daughter's life was still running according to the schedule Margaret approved of. But after that dinner, silence, not a single text, not a single call. At first, Olivia thought it might be because Thomas had gotten sick. "Maybe she's focused on him," she said. "Maybe he's still not well." But deep down, we both knew better. Margaret wasn't worried. She was calculating. She was waiting to see what I'd do, whether I'd confront her, expose her, tell her husband, go to the police. But I didn't. I went to work, laughed with coworkers, took Olivia on a weekend trip to a cabin in the woods just outside Montauk, lived my life like I hadn't watched her world start to collapse at the dinner table, and that silence, that unnerved her more than anything else I could have done. 3 weeks later, we got an invitation in the mail. Not a text, not an email, a formal cardstock invitation, embossed, glossy. "Dinner at our home," it said, 7 p.m. sharp, please RSVP, no occasion, no reason, just a summons. Olivia looked at me when she opened it. "What is this?" "A test," I said. She frowned. "A test of what?" "To see if I'm scared." We showed up that night right on time. Thomas answered the door. He looked different, not sick, but subdued, like a man who'd woken up from something he couldn't explain and didn't quite trust the people around him anymore. He smiled at Olivia, shook my hand. But there was a pause. Just a second longer than usual, like he was studying me. Margaret greeted us with that same flawless smile she always wore. Except now, I could see the strain behind it. She was rattled, still beautiful, still polished, but there was a tremor under the surface, a tension in her posture. Her mask was slipping. "Ethan," she said, kissing the air near my cheek. "So good to see you." "You too," I replied smoothly. "Thanks for having us again." We sat down to a table that looked almost identical to the last one. Same plates, same napkins, same drink. But this time, no glasses were pre-filled. She poured at the table, carefully, deliberately, one glass at a time. Eyes locked on me as she poured mine. No switch this time, she made sure of it. But I didn't drink it, not out of fear. I wasn't worried she'd try the same trick twice. I didn't drink it because I wanted her to notice that I didn't drink it. Because sometimes, withholding trust hurts more than confrontation. Later that night, after another perfectly fake meal and hours of surface-level conversation, we left. Olivia was quiet on the drive home. Finally, she asked, "Do you think she'll ever admit it?" "No," I said. "But she'll think about it. Every time we're in the same room. Every time I pick up a glass. Every time I don't." "And Thomas?" she asked. I looked out the window. I think he knows something happened. He just doesn't know what, yet. Should we tell him? Maybe one day, I said, when it matters. Because that was the beauty of it. The power wasn't in the reveal, it was in the awareness, in knowing that Margaret had tried to remove me and failed. And now, she had to live with that failure, quietly, politely, behind a curtain of civility. While I lived with the satisfaction of knowing, she spiked the drink. I swapped it, and I watched her world start to crack. About a month later, something unexpected happened. Thomas called me. Not Olivia. Me. It was a Saturday afternoon. I was in the garage changing a headlight bulb when my phone rang. I wiped my hands on a rag and answered, thinking maybe he'd pocket-dialed me. But no. His voice was calm, purposeful. "Hey, Ethan," he said. "You got a minute?" "Sure. Everything okay?" He hesitated, just enough to tell me he was choosing his words carefully. "I've been thinking about that dinner, the one where I didn't feel well." My fingers froze on the hood latch. "Yeah?" I said lightly. "That was a rough night." "Rough, yeah, but it didn't feel random. Something felt off." I didn't say anything, just let the silence stretch. "I know Margaret said it was the chicken," he went on. "But Olivia mentioned you're allergic to shellfish, and I remembered she made shrimp stock that night. I didn't eat any, but you were supposed to." I exhaled slowly. "That's true." "Did you?" "No." More silence. Then, very quietly, he asked, "Was it meant for you?" I didn't answer directly. I didn't need to. Instead, I said, "Margaret makes a lot of assumptions. Sometimes she assumes no one's paying attention." Thomas sighed. "Yeah, she does." There was a pause. Then he said, "Thank you. For not making it a thing. I don't know what I would have done if you had." That struck me. Because in that moment, I realized something else had shifted. Not just between me and Margaret, but between Thomas and the reality he'd been ignoring for years. He'd seen the mask slip, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. A few weeks later, Margaret's calls became even less frequent. She stopped hosting dinners, stopped commenting on Olivia's life choices, stopped pretending she was in control. I don't know if it was shame, or fear, or just the slow decay of a plan that didn't work. But whatever it was, it brought peace. Not revenge in the dramatic, explosive sense, but the quiet kind. The kind where your enemy knows they lost and has to carry that knowledge every time they see you. And that was enough. Because I didn't need to ruin her life. I just needed her to know she couldn't ruin mine. So now, every holiday, every birthday dinner, every polite conversation, there's an invisible line between us. She stays on her side. And I raise my glass, take a sip, and smile. Because I remember exactly what she tried to do, and more importantly, so does she.